certain point, you really have to distance yourself from the naysayers, from the noise, right? And that's exactly kind of what I did is, I stopped watching the news. Like I realized, the news causes me FOMO, makes me make bad investments because I want to sell, I want to buy. I mean, the best investments I've had ever have been just buying it and forgetting about it.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. Austin Linney here, and I have the project manager of all project managers, Mr. Andrew. How are you doing, sir?
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
I love it, my man. Well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of get rolling.
Okay, so where do I start? I guess I'll start in my investing career because that's where I really feel like my entrepreneurial bug really kicked in. But more or less, back during COVID, I came to the realization that I did the normal American dream of going to a good school, getting a good education, getting a six-figure job, working at a prestigious institution, getting a nice swanky condo in a city, right? I had it all, right? But at the end of the day, I only really had like 6 months of reserves, right? I really relied on that job. I mean, yeah, maybe I could quit for 6 months or a year, but at the end of the day, I had to go crawling back to that job. And that really came face to face with me during COVID when I ran out of things to procrastinate, ran out of movies to watch, ran out of video games to play. And I only had to really look in the mirror and is this really what I want for my life? And at that point, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I realized the power of real estate. Like my net worth was like $250,000 and 80% of that came from my one-bedroom condo I bought 7 years ago and forgot about. And I was like, wow. So at that point, I took out a $200K HELOC, a home line of credit on my one-bedroom condo in Boston, and used that over the next 3 years to accumulate 95 multifamily rental units. I syndicated some, JV'd some, and house hacked some as well. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell, and here I am today.
So most people hear that and they go, wow, that's a lot in a short amount of time, right? To invest, to go from nothing to that. Obviously it doesn't happen overnight, but it sounded like, for lack of a better word, you were just like, this is like, I'm gonna do something about this. And then once it took off, it kind of just happened quick, right? And I think a lot of people forget that the hardest part is getting started, and then after that it can happen so quick.
Yeah, and it's also getting out of your bad habits. Like through my entire 20s, I was really in a procrastination rut. Like every time I was confronted with my dreams or going after my goals, I would always delve into procrastination, be it movies, be it video games, right? And then once I came to this realization, it's almost like awkward for me even procrastinate. It almost feels like I'm being unproductive, right? And maybe people look at that as a fault, like I can't really relax, but at the same time I've achieved so much in these 3 years because I don't watch Netflix, like I don't watch sports, like I focus on my goals and my dreams 24/7, and that's really how I've been able to achieve this in such a short period.
Was it any book besides Rich Dad Poor Dad? Was it any book or any habit that got you out of the procrastination? Because I know a lot of people feel like they're stuck in neutral.
Yeah, I mean, definitely morning routine. Like that was the game changer, right? I do the Miracle Morning with Hal Elrod. Savers, silence for affirmation. Sorry, silence for meditation. A for affirmation. V for visualization. E for exercise. R for reading. S for scribing or journaling. I do that every single morning, and I literally I wake up probably about 5, 6 a.m., and I spend a good 2 to 3 hours on personal development every single morning. And that's really my game changer because every single morning I get to realign with what my 10-year goals are, what my 5-year goals are, what my 1-year goals are. Like, what can I do today to get me closer to that path, right? So that's been a game changer for me in a nutshell for sure. And the other thing is just constant self-discovery, like just being a constant learner, just trying to grow every single day. Like those two kind of combined really helped me scale for sure.
And did you, and of your friend group and all that stuff, did you get any pushback when you started wanting to invest in real estate, like other people in your job or like other guys that you call friends?
Exactly. I mean, you're 100% right. And at a certain point, you really have to distance yourself from the naysayers, from the noise, right? And that's exactly kind of what I did is, I stopped watching the news. Like I realized, oh, the news causes me FOMO, makes me make bad investments because I want to sell, I want to buy. I mean, the best investments I've had ever have been just buying it and forgetting about it, right? So removing the news, removing like you're the average of the 5 people you associate yourself with. So I mean, I obviously still have my college buddies and my high school buddies, but at the same time, I'm going to regulate how much I hang out with them because more or less, I started hanging out with people with hundreds of units, and 3 years later, I somehow have hundreds of units. It's not common sense. You just see what other successful people are doing in your area and kind of copy and paste that formula. So being very controlling of my external environment and the information that comes into my mind every single day has been instrumental for sure. Like, absolutely.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million-dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net.
One of the greatest days of my life was I have 2 friends who do like high finance. Like one manages like 5 billion. The other one is like runs a $500 million fund. And we had a meetup one time in Austin and there was like 15 real estate investors and like 2 of them. And everybody have a couple cocktails, this is back when I was not sober. And they got into a heated discussion who was a better investor, who mentally, emotionally, right? And the stock market guys actually said something that I agree with. He said, look, if your real estate house, if your investments were a ticker tape and every 5 seconds it went up or down, he goes, y'all will emotionally be ripped apart. He goes, that's what we deal with every day. And that was the big argument. And it's always stuck with me because I have another friend who's big time multifamily, 90 million in the last 4 years. He said, he has a great quote. He says, every investment looked at on the proper time horizon is a great investment. Is that I think my biggest issue with real estate, especially with the new people getting in, is they want it to be this like home run short-term thing. And man, you said it yourself. The best investment is the one I forgot about. Like the best investment you can put in yourself is that morning routine because you forgot how how hard it was to start. And then you started and you just do it over again, right? That's the key is like to drown out the noise, the news, the market, because there's always people buying, whether the rates are high or the rates are low, you just become neutral, right? And I think that really creates something special.
The Game, Money by Tony Robbins. And he went over what were the best performing brokerage accounts. And they figured out that the best performing brokerage accounts were the people that died. Because they got it.
That is so funny. I didn't know that story. That is funny. I've never heard that one. That is funny.
And time cures it all, apparently. So,
dude, that is hilarious. I remember a guy on Bigger Pockets. I remember this like it was yesterday. He bought like in a condo or one in LA, like right before 2008. And he lost like 3/4 value of the condo, but he was like super wealthy. and it was for his daughter, so he didn't care, right? And his comment was, and I sold that for a 300% profit when the market came back. And he realized in his portfolio, I think he had like a couple hundred million. He had never lost money on a property that he held for longer than 7 years, ever.
Wow.
Right. And so there's so many reasons is that, I'll use a different strategy. Profit first, putting money away and forgetting about it. Having a bank account that you don't have access to a debit card and just put money. Like I do whole life insurance policy, which is like, just something I do for myself later. I wish I would have started that at 18 years old and put $50 in every week. Like that would be amazing, but we don't do that because we want the diet, we want the short fad, we want all these things like and you're not going to get to your 95 units and stop. Like so stop behaving as such. Like if you got 95, you're going to want 195 and 295. And
Yeah.
then some days it might switch to something different, but we invest as if we're hoping to get out of something instead of it bringing something to our life.
Investing's a powerful thing because every single month it compounds and grows bigger and bigger and bigger, especially with real estate where everybody's focused on cash flow. Yet I made most of my money on the other three levers of real estate.
Okay.
Tax benefits, barely paying taxes, mortgage pay down. I mean, every single month my net worth goes up by tens of thousands of dollars because my tenants are paying down my mortgage. Appreciation. I've gotten all of my properties through lines of credit, taking the equity in the property and buying more property with it, right? And the cash flow has been simply a defensive mechanism just to kind of keep the property afloat, keep it running to the standard that I expect. But yeah, I mean, up until I think 2 weeks ago, I took my first cash flow check. Prior to that, just letting it compound, grow, and that's kind of how I've been able to scale, is just letting it compound over 2-3 years. House hacking, living up $2,000-3,000 a month. Making $250,000 in my 5 side hustles I do. Right, like that's how you do it. Is slow and methodical.
So you got the job, the project manager, you got the real estate. What else are you doing on the side?
I self-manage 24 of my 95 units. I'm also an investor-focused agent. I have about 3 agents under me as well. I also host a couple different meetups. So I have my hands in a lot of things, but the one thing I will say is what I did intentionally do is I did intentionally build bridges that were synergistic, right? So once I built a bridge, it feeds into another bridge. It feeds into another bridge. So, I definitely am a big advocate for staying extremely focused, but if you are going to build bridges, I think it's smart to build bridges that kind of lead to the same path.
And I think that's the number one thing that people misunderstand is that you said it perfectly. When it all flows into the same bucket, it's super easy to talk about, right? Like I have many different things that I'm doing, and most of the time I learn the hard way is I don't tell people, 90% of the things I'm doing because their head would be spinning and it's just not prudent information. But there's nothing in my life in the buckets that I do live in that is outside of things that don't just light me up or things that don't have the begin to end. The way I describe to people is I want to control all aspects of the funnel, not just part of the funnel. So meaning it's super easy to talk about with you. Okay, we're going to talk about real estate. Okay, I do the real estate over here, and that's what we do. Blah 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 blah. Like, but guess what? We have a lot of project manager stuff going on, right, in our job because we're doing large scale commercial HVAC jobs. Boom. So those are the two things that you and I are going to connect on, and we're going to jam on that. Outside of that, we're good. We don't need to talk about anything else. But that took me, almost 38 years to realize that not everybody needs to hear everything that's going on because, a lot of people can't handle it. But more importantly, it just confuses them, right? But when you see your audience, right? If you went to your meetups, like I'm sure different meetups in different areas have different real estate, so there's different conversations. Like that's the game, is like knowing your audience and then sharing what's necessary for that person and then moving on with your day.
Absolutely, for sure.
So I guess, the question that everybody's going to ask is how do you do it all? Right.
How do you do it all? So that brings up one of my favorite books, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And in that book, he talks about, think with the end in mind. So, have your 10-year vision in mind and reverse engineer it. But he also talks about a time matrix where, it's very important to stay in a matrix where you stay in the buckets of urgent and important, urgent and not important, sorry, urgent and important, important and not urgent, and you stay away from the buckets that are not urgent, not important, and not urgent, and not important and urgent. So you really kind of craft your life to really stay in the productive time zones. So every single day, I'll kind of figure out like, all right, what do I need to get done? What's a fire? What systems can I create to make it so this fire isn't a fire, and there's a process in place to make it not a fire, so I don't have to focus on that, and I can really focus on working on my business and not in my business on the daily fire. So it's very much just prioritizing what will get you to your next goal, but at the same time creating systems in place so you actually have the thought freedom to focus on building your business.
Mm-hmm. And have you, has it become a process that you've gotten better with over time, or are you just like, the problem is, especially in multifamily and some of the things that you're doing, like the emergencies can be an emergency, right? Somebody's living in a unit, right? So how do you handle when something overtakes your day, or something like that comes up that has to be handled immediately, when you have your job and all your other stuff going on? How do you do that?
It's very important to create a team where they can take away things that are your weaknesses so you can focus on things that are your strength, right? So an example of this would be, I have 3 social media virtual assistants. I've realized that social media is very important for my business in regards to increasing my brand, bringing in capital, people bringing deals to me, right? But social media, like you said, it drains me, right? So I sub that out to a virtual assistant. I just record the content, I send it to her, they make it look pretty, they give me the captions, I post it, right? Or, when it comes to self-managing my property, going back and forth with the tenants drains me. Getting the contract out there, figuring out all the times where everybody works for everybody, absolutely drains me. So I hired a 18-year-old young kid that wanted to learn from a real estate investor. We pay him like $15 an hour, give him incentives, and he does all that tenant communication. He meets the contractors, right? So when I do get that call, I simply just forward it to my delegates, and they handle it for me, right? So it's about creating those systems in place to take care of those fires so you can really focus on the bigger picture.
So how many people actually work for you through all your things, do you think?
I have about 7 people that work. I have 3 virtual assistants, I have 3 agents, and I have 1 assistant property manager.
Do you ever think about that guy 3 years ago that was playing video games? Like, I'm looking at you now and like, you're dialed in, dude. Like, you got your people working for you, you got people learning from you, you got tenants that you're housing, you got businesses going, you're still crushing your W-2. Like, it's pretty cool to see, like, in a short amount of time, what you've created.
To your point, the previous me 3 years ago could never do this, right? They would have no chance in hell to manage all of these things. But throughout these 3 years, I've created the person that can handle these multiple businesses, these multiple employees, right? So going back to that point, it's all about creating the ideal version of yourself every single day. So if you know where you want to be 10 years from now, that's going to require a certain type of person, a certain type of individual that can resolve bigger challenges. And if I want to be that person, I got to create the person to get there, right? So to your point, like that through that 3-year-old self, like I love that person because that's who I used to be, but I do not align with that person whatsoever to today. If me and my former self 3 years ago met in a bar, I wouldn't even know what to talk about with them, to be honest with you.
Do you think any aspects of your W-2 being a project manager, certain traits of that business, do you think it's helped you and succeed? Because that is I look at my project manager, he's a young kid. We gave him the job knowing that he wasn't qualified, but he's one of the smartest kids I ever met, and he's crushed it every day since. Like, but he can handle a lot. He's bouncing all over the place.
Yes. I mean, project management is a fantastic trade because it teaches you to own it. It teaches you to own the task, make sure it gets from point A to point B to point Z until it's done. So it's very powerful for creating accountability. So absolutely. And the other thing that I think is really a transferable trait from project management is the ability to figure it out. Like if I run across a problem, I'm not just gonna raise up my hands like, well, what do I do now? It's gonna be like being a project manager, you really teach yourself to come up with multiple solutions and really kind of dial it in.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I'm doing with my team. So got a lot. We didn't have any managers when I came on board. So we went from 19 staff when I came on board. We're at 48 now in 6 months. So boom, creating managers. I have a rule. The rule is I'll help you with your problem, whether it be with a customer or another employee. But if I help you, I'm taking it to the end. Okay. That's the rule with you. You can handle the problem with yourself. But if it comes back around to me and you don't handle it from start to finish, then I'm owning it and you're out of the situation. That's my game with them, right? And so what it's done is it's really taught them ownership of a problem and slash solution. But a lot of times they come to me, they've identified the problem and they've already handled the solution without even running it by me. And that's creating a different animal here. I don't want yes men, yes women. I want people that have a solution-based mindset. And now that I think about everything that you have going on, I'm like, man, a project manager job would be really great for a lot of young people to really understand kind of the quintessential, right? I think about a project manager of a development company. Like how many I can, God bless you, how you're dealing with the contractor, the city, the permits. There's I don't think people look at their job enough to say like, okay, what are the skills that I'm going to gain instead of just going to sit behind a desk and type on a computer.
Project management, I mean, it's more or less teaching you how to like run a professional mastermind. Because as you know, mastermind
Yes.
incredibly important for surrounding yourself around people and
Mm-hmm.
accountable, right? And to have a project manager there, like they're essentially training to keep themselves accountable, be kind of their own self mastermind in a sense, right? So it's absolutely transferable. It's probably the utmost skill that's helped me with my success. Because I mean, prior to being a project manager and growing up, like I was very introverted. I took Adderall. I didn't even know how to talk with people, right? But going through the process of being a project manager really taught me soft skills, really taught me that this is a relationship game and it's not a numbers game, right? And to get things done, you have to be collaborative and work with people and create win-wins, right? So those are the things that really taught me, and all that is super transferable to real estate. I mean, at the end of the day, I've done in countless deals because I've done one deal with somebody and they like working with me and they brought me another, right? And people don't understand that a lot of times. If people like grind somebody in a deal, yeah, you may win that one deal, but you screwed like your 20 other deals down the road that you would have never gotten, right? So absolutely, I think it's a great skill in any trade for sure.
Bruce Peterson is a friend of mine who wrote a book called Syndication is a biatch. And he's done a lot of large scale multifamily, almost 5,000, 6,000 units. And he told me something one day. He said, I never, ever remodel my entire building. And I only remodel 50%. And I was like, why? You're not extracting the most value out of it. He goes, because I want the buyer that buys my property to have some meat on the bone for himself too. And I was like, that's an amazing, that's yes. And that really was something that I lived by already. But him hearing that story, it's like, okay, he's not trying to extract every dollar out of this property. He's trying to continue the flow of value. And that's going to come back around to him, with sellers and buyers. So I love that you said that. what is kind of on your vision for like next year and the years on? Like, what is it that you want to do for yourself?
So this year I'm on track to close 100 units, which my original goal this year was 20 units. So trust.
Yes.
My ultimate goal over 10 years is I would love to syndicate 10,000 units,
Mhm.
love to actively own 400 units, travel to 100 countries, write a book, and help 10,000 people reach financial independence. Those are my goals. And they really give me purpose every single day when I kind of look at them and I figure out like what can I do this day to get me there, right?
Mhm. I love those goals. Unpack for me how you set a goal of 20 units and you're almost at 100. Like how, like, oh my God, the interest rates are terrible and nobody's buying. Like, how are you doing this? Right? No, I'm just being facetious. But
Oh, it's fun because I do masterminds, and right, we write our like year goal on there, right? And I wrote my year goal where I was like, I want to close on 12 units, and everybody in my house was like, dude, like you're completely undershooting this right now. Like, what are you doing? All right, I'm like, all right. So I bumped it up to 20, and I'm like, I want to syndicate a deal, even though like I've never syndicated a deal before. It was a big goal, right? But lo and behold, I ended up syndicating a deal that year. It just came manifested like out of nowhere. Somebody brought me a fantastic deal. They needed somebody to help raise the capital. Me and my partner took the challenge on, and we closed on that in August. So that bumped in 65 units. And then I ended up JVing on two sixplexes. So that bumped me up to 72 units. And then I actually have a 32 unit under contract in Lancaster, South Carolina that I'm JVing on. So with that, that'll push me up to on like 105 or something like that.
so the question is, what are you going to write down for next year?
I'm almost scared because I know if I write it down, it's going to become reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but no, I mean, but to your point, I just want to add like everybody was freaking out about the rates, freaking out about the markets. Meanwhile, I'm scooping up properties at a 5% and a 6% interest rate. And right now, people are looking at me like I'm a genius, right? But no, I just didn't let the noise confuse me. I stayed down, I stayed focused, right? And I zagged when everybody zigged, right? I mean, those are the best investors when they are contrary to popular belief, when they go the opposite direction. So yeah, I mean, I think that's just a big reason for my success is I don't listen to the noise. I don't let it sway me, you know.
I love it. People want to find out more about you, buddy. They want to reach out to you. How would they do that?
They would reach out to me on Instagram at Investor Freed, as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn at Andrew Freed.
I love it, man. So inspiring. So great, guys. Send that to a friend that's thinking about investing, that wants to get inspired. And we'll see you next time.